So if you'd like to hit your driver a little bit more like that nice tidy draw shot, guys, today's video is going to be of great help to you. Okay, so we all have that 1 or 2 holes on the golf course where we just want to hit the driver with a nice tidy draw, perhaps to get around a dog leg or to squeeze some extra distance out of the shot. Now, to begin with for this video, let's talk about just a couple of very simple errors that I tend to see players make. Number one, ball position. Far too often I see players setting up to hit their draw shot and they put the golf ball further forward in the stance. Now, logically, I understand why this might seem like it makes sense because the club face is kind of closing over. So it should be easy to, we know the club face needs to rotate and close. So if we have it forward in the stance, we should be able to rotate our hands quite naturally. That should make the golf ball go from a right to left direction. However, that isn't how the swing works. The further forward I put the golf ball in my stance, to the point where I see players with it almost outside their left foot here, the natural club path for the swing is going to be moving left. Why? Well, because that's where my body's moving. I'm turning left. We can see here. That natural movement means that now the club's going left. You're either going to get one of two things. Number one, we're going to close the club face down. Now we get a massive, massive pull to the left. That'll only happen once or twice before the brain gets smart enough to go, well, let's not close the club face so quickly. And then we get the club path going left with an opening face. And we know what that means. Out to in, essentially, with the club moving in that direction. Club face open, we're going to get that cut-in slice shot. Mistake number two, so common to see, poor alignment. This leads to a small minor mistake that follows on, but let's start with poor alignment. And what I mean by that is watching players set themselves up. So here we have par 5, dog legs around from right to left, and we will often see players aiming way out into the tree line. They pull their right foot back, they're trying really hard to kind of swing the club out to the right. The problem that we get from this particular setup, number one, if we make a good swing, and what I mean by that is we kind of follow the body's setup position here. You can see here my club face is way open, and we see it far too often, players aiming so far right. They make a great swing, the ball starts there and stays there because everything stays square. If they don't make a good swing, if they don't move the club kind of, in that in to out fashion, what they're actually going to end up doing from here is they're going to be working inside with the club. So they kind of follow their feet line, then they go over the top, and then they kind of close the face down, and we get this dirty over the top pull. Now, that in itself will feel like a draw to some of your players, but it actually isn't the draw you're hitting. It's an over the top pull, and it can cause you more problems than it can do good for your game. If you are struggling to hit the draw, number one, ball position, we kind of shift it back in the stance just a little bit. Having that golf ball back in the stance a little bit, especially for the player who tends to kind of have that setup closed and they kind of swing the club, they follow the body line essentially. When the golf ball's back in the stance, we're far more likely to see a player kind of rotating their hands. And a secondary matchup, which doesn't address the root cause, but definitely have seen it help some players, is to engage this left hip moving towards target a little bit quicker. So what I mean by that is as I get to the top of my backswing, I feel like I'm going to kind of drive my hip forward. By driving my hip forward, it kind of allows me to move the arms more behind the body line, and then from here, I can kind of swing out and around. Again, it is a matchup. It is not a long-term solution, but certainly if you find yourself struggling whilst you're out on the golf course, just a simple movement of the hip kind of moving earlier and more towards target will kind of lower the right side here and will get me working a little bit more into out. So the major root cause for why you guys perhaps don't hit the draw shot the way you want to is a very, very simple one. It's to do this bad boy here. We often see players get to the top of their backswing and the right elbow begins to separate from the body. And what I mean by that is it kind of moves out and away, okay? So we're getting this space between the rib cage and the right elbow. And if I do that from a driver setup position, get to the top and I create this space on the way down, you can see the club working now from sort of outward to inward path. That means we get the club working over the top. Essentially, we end up seeing players with that first, small fault where we end up having to aim too far right. What we need to be feeling like and what we want is for this right elbow to actually be working closer to the body on the downswing. As you can see there, even through that basic little motion I made, get to the top, pull the right elbow closer to the body, the club sits in behind the body line. That now creates that into-out path that I'm able to swing through to hit my draw shot. Okay, so the drill, guys, it's super simple, super easy. We're gonna want ourselves just a couple of alignment sticks. So first alignment stick we're gonna place, okay? I'm gonna lay it down, pointing towards our target, okay? It's gonna be positioned between the feet and the golf ball. That's important. And then what we're going to do is I'm just going to use my mat here to demonstrate this. If I were to put my alignment stick all the way back to the edge of my mat here, I've got this kind of 90-degree angle that's running through the mat line here. And if we just extend that a touch longer, so this little corner here, we can see we've got this nice sort of 90-degree angle. What we're now going to do, I'm going to take my secondary alignment stick, and this is important that we position this correctly. Okay, I want you to position it pointing at the golf ball, and we're going to position it at about 35 degrees. Okay, now there's two placements that we can have. We can either have it by the feet line or outside of the feet line. Now this depends on the player themselves and how they like to see and visualize this, because this is very much a visual movement. When we get ourselves into our setup position here, what I'm going to be working on is trying to get my shaft of my club here to match parallel, almost like a set of train tracks to that red alignment stick that's on the ground. Now what we can do, we can see here that I can essentially position this further back on that same sort of line. We'll just get the angle correct there. And with the light overhead, what I've got here is an ability to literally match up my shadow directly over the top of this red alignment stick. But what we're going to do from doing this is going to help me get my right elbow close to my body, position my club behind my body line here, and enable me to then work through, rotate through, and hit that nice tidy draw. Guys, the reality is, the more precise you are with the training sessions and the more precise you are with the movements that you're making, especially when doing things like that pump drill and getting it set up in the correct spot, the quicker these changes are likely to occur. Going from a fade or slice pattern into a draw pattern takes some time. And the reality is I'm talking 6 to 8 months. Now I know a lot of you guys watching this video probably think you don't have 6 to 8 months or you want to be able to do it tomorrow. Look, if you work hard enough, you're definitely going to see it in a short period of time. But the reality is for a person who's practicing once a week and playing once a week, you're probably looking at about 6 to 8 month period for this new movement to begin to take shape and to happen more, you know, let's say on demand. And that might be that you might be a fader of the golf ball, but you just want to be able to hit that shot on demand. Look, if you give yourself 6 to 8 months worth of solid work and work in that training drill in amongst your regular training sessions, you're going to see that you get onto certain holes and you can hit that draw shot on command. As always guys, I appreciate you taking time to watch today's video, and I really do hope that this is going to help you hit that draw shot that little bit better, and I do hope that you found the information useful for you and your game. As always, don't forget, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up for me. If you know someone who needs some help with the game, please feel free to share the video with them. And also, don't forget to leave a comment. If you'd like some help with your game personally, please feel free to reach out to me on the SKILLEST app. There is a one-time offer for each person that jumps on there. You'll see that you can get a one-time free swing analysis, which I'll be more than happy to do for you. And other than that, until the next time I see you guys, happy golfing.